And we're live with another episode of BS Busters. We might be joined by the third member of our trio, Jewel Rider, Eli Moonstar. But until that starts, I guess we got to talk about Elephant in the Room. The Elephant in the Room. Before we get there, we'll have Pinky Don introduce himself. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Pinky Don from Video Facts. Alongside with Jewel Rider, we might also expect Kenoshi to join as well, since he recently posted in our Discord server sharing us the latest trailer for Death Stranding that came with finally a release date. Of course, none of us are excited for it because Kojima is a hack. But before we could discuss that, we had to discuss the elephant in the room. That is the Pokemon press conference that we had yesterday.
Yeah. There was a Pokemon press conference, and basically it boils down to four things. They're moving Pokemon Bank, or I shouldn't say they're moving. They're expanding Pokemon Bank so that it includes
Pokemon Go and
Pokemon Go and Pokemon Let's Go and
the upcoming Sword and Shield.
And the upcoming, well, Sword and Shield makes sense. Pokemon Let's Go and Pokemon Go also makes sense. I'm surprised they're doing it now because they should have done it last year for Pokemon Let's Go. And they should have had it in the work. They should have had this done for this should have been done for Pokemon Sun and Moon, and if not Sun and Moon, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. It's kind of weird that now they're like, well, now we can do it. I'm like, this should have been done like months, years ago.
I think it's supposed to be this one system that's supposed to connect all.
Yeah, this universal system. I mean, I'm glad they're doing it. It's really future-proofing their system, but like, I mean, it should have been done for at least Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. It should. I mean, even if it was just for, okay, you can bring in your Pokemon Let's Go. You can bring in your Pokemon Go Pokemon that you capture into this game. Isn't that cool? Yeah.
My theory is that they're doing so right now is because of Sword and Shield.
Yeah. That's the reason they're doing it, is because of Sword and Shield. It's not a theory. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I'm just saying it should have been done.
Like back in 2017, but Sword and Shield wasn't a thing back then.
No, it probably was a thing. They just probably hadn't.
Because they probably wanted to save it until like on the year.
I mean, look, man, it is what it is. I'm just saying it probably would have helped to have it for Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon a little bit more than now. For those people who really wanted that game, but I mean, I don't really care because I'm
Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon is still compatible with Pokemon Bank.
Yeah, whatever. I don't care. So anyway, and there's future application of Pokemon Let's Sleep, Pokemon Sleep, where you can. Apparently, it will hunt for Pokemon while you're asleep, which is kind of cool, I guess.
Or as I had to call it, Pokemon Go to F to sleep.
No, if they do that, they need to get Sam Jackson to do the voice. I said, go to sleep. God damn it. Close your eyes. Go to sleep, motherfucker. Why are you yelling at me? I always talk like this, motherfucker. That would have been interesting.
And they introduced a new peripheral that goes along with Pokemon Sleep, and it has the most ridiculous name out there, the Pokemon Plus Plus.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Moving on, they also announced a sequel to Detective Pikachu for the Switch.
Makes sense. Considering that that movie made a lot of money.
And also because the original game ended on a cliffhanger, and people are waiting for a sequel.
I mean, I don't think it's to that point. I think the niche fan base of Detective Pikachu, we're waiting for a sequel. I think a lot of people who, I think this is to strike while the iron's hot, because the movie got a lot of people who aren't normally into Pokemon.
Well, it's not just the niche Detective Pikachu fan base, but the entire Pokemon fan base as a whole. According to this, based on this Pokemon server I go to.
Look, how many times do I have to tell you, man? The average Pokemon game player isn't going to a damn Pokemon server, to a Discord server, or to a website. Joe Blow average Pokemon gamer is not doing that. It's like saying
they actually do when they ask for
it. No, they don't. No, they don't. If someone's a hardcore fan, if someone is a fan of basketball, they aren't going to if they're a casual fan, they aren't the type of person who's going to who's going to wear all the gear and paint their face and tailgate and go to every home game. That's hardcore fans. Casual fans are going to watch it at home, catch it when they can. So only the most hardcore people are going to go through all of that rigmarole to talk about Pokemon. Casual fans aren't going to do that. So don't say all. Say the people on your server are really into it, not all of them, okay? Because that's like someone saying, well, all women are crazy. Do you know all women? No, then don't say all. That's a very large qualifier. You don't know every Pokemon fan, and not every Pokemon fan is on a Discord server. You're telling me 50+ million people are on one server? Does that make sense?
Except for the part where it said my server, even though
I mean, when I say yours, I don't mean yours personally. I mean, does it make sense that a fan base that is, well, I said 50 million, it's probably more than that, probably like 80, 100 million, go to one website to talk about Pokemon? Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense to me.
It doesn't make sense.
That
does not make sense.
Because if someone's new to Pokemon and wants to learn more about how to get good, they go to these fan websites and ask.
No, they don't.
For advice.
No, they don't. You know what most people who want to get into Pokemon do, if they're curious about it, they go on Google. They say, hey, general Pokemon tips. They go on Google, it goes to some weird website, and they're like, oh, okay, these are just 5 general tips to get good at Pokemon or whatever. If they care that much, generally the fun of Pokemon, if you're a casual fan, is just finding your own way, coming up with your own weird team combinations that work for you and whatever weird things you like to do. God, Jesus. That got awkward. Anyway,
okay, so that's three things, and the fourth one is basically something that caught me off guard, which is another game, another Pokemon game made by Niantic. It's called Pokemon Masters, and it's basically this franchise is equivalent to Fire Emblem Heroes, where instead of unit Fire Emblem character units, it's Pokemon trainers from current and previous games. Where that means you get to recruit Red, Brock, Misty, Giovanni, and all other fan favorite gym leaders, Elite Four members, and champions.
That makes no sense, because Giovanni swore he would never use a Pokemon ever again. Or was that bullshit too?
No, that was BS. They retconned that out. They retconned that in the remakes. Fire Red and Leaf Green.
Oh well.
Of course, when I saw people hearing about the news, people are joking that we might get summer alt costumes for these trainers, such as a bikini Cynthia, which I was one of those people.
Joking or serious?
Joking, because Fire Emblem Heroes also had summer alt costumes for its characters, like Chrom in his swimming trunks. Of course, so far we don't have. Of course, so far that's not a thing yet. Neither is swimsuit Marth, Roy, or Ike.
It would be funny if they had alternate. They had skimpy alternate outfits only for the male characters.
But they do have swimwear outfits for female Robin and female Corrin.
No, man. No. I'm not talking about Fire Emblem. I'm talking about if for the Pokemon game, they had skimpy outfits, but only for the male characters. Only for the unattractive male characters, just to mess with people. That would be hilarious.
And for what I could understand based on the 10 seconds of gameplay footage, as well as the information we have so far from the press conference, the generic trainer classes are going to be used for the common and uncommons, whereas the more fan favorite Pokemon trainers are going to be used for the rares, ultra rares, and legendaries.
So what you're looking at is that what's probably going to happen is that you're probably going to when you first start the game, you might get one rare character or semi-rare character, and that'll probably be a more well-known trainer. And then you'll get like a lot of commons, semi-commons. So you'll get like the bug trainer,
yeah,
maybe cue ball, something like that.
Yep, pretty much.
Which is okay. I'm just saying it's kind of. I'm not bothered by it.
If Drew were here, he will probably discuss more about how this game is bringing back triple battles, which he sorely missed.
Well, they added a level of strategy that you didn't normally get from most vanilla Pokemon battles. Even dual battles really didn't have it that much. Oh well.
Oh yeah, and they also announced, and of course they announced that Pokemon Quest is coming to China.
Makes sense. Trying to make money, trying to get paid.
And I think that's pretty much it from the Pokemon press conference.
So what have we learned? Pokemon Company is making a lot of strides forward. If Jewel were here, she'd be like, I hate to say this, but it's true. The 3DS is done. It's done for. It's done. So.
And of course, in case that people and Game Freak also made a fail, and the Pokemon Company also made a fail safe in case anybody does complain about the lack of Sword and Shield news. They announced a Sword and Shield Direct coming next week.
Yeah. So just straight up Sword and Shield stuff, which is cool. I mean,
which also means that they'll probably save some space for Nintendo's digital event at E3 for another title.
Which I'm cool with because, while I do like Pokemon, it's nice to have it's nice to talk about other stuff because Pokemon is good, but at this point it's like I don't want to spend 20, 30, I don't want to spend 15, 20, 10, 15, 20 minutes of a direct on Pokemon, even though I know Pokemon has a huge fan base and a lot of people who buy those games and all that type of stuff. Because at this point, while Pokemon is exciting, you can expect that there's going to be, Game Freak's been working on something. Plus, I want to hear about that new game they've been making, which looks interesting. Not great, but interesting.
I get you.
So, You know, maybe it'll be something cool. Maybe not. I don't know, but looking forward to it.
Now, with all that Pokemon news out of the way, I think it's time to discuss Death Stranding or something else.
No, we can do the Death Stranding. I mean, I wasn't going to talk about it because I just don't care about the game, but apparently people all over have been like, man, this could be awesome. Like, here's the thing. This game is either going to be okay or going to show people how much of a fraud Hideo Kojima is. I'm personally hoping for the latter because I like Hideo Kojima.
Looking at the gameplay footage, I don't see anything new that's as groundbreaking for the gaming industry. It's just a generic walking sim. It looks like it's using the same engine as Metal Gear Solid 5.
Well, considering that his team made that engine, they probably have the source code, and they probably were just like, "We'll just change a few things so Konami can't sue our asses." And
it's going to be. It looks like it's going to be more linear. About to be as linear as Metal Gear Solid 3 and Metal Gear Solid 4, going through a straight path.
Metal Gear Solid 4 wasn't as linear as that, but or 5 even. I just like, here's the thing. My thing with Hideo Kojima is that I just feel that he's overrated. I feel that as a game maker, he like his best work to me was the stuff he did. Is like Snatcher, Police Knots, stuff like that. Like, I really don't care about what he's been doing lately. If you get like Metal Gear, I'm not like enamored with, you know.
Yeah.
Not that it's terrible. I just don't, you know. I'm not like, oh my god, this game changed my life. Like people were like, man, this game changed my life. I'm like, well, God, your life must have sucked if Metal Gear changed it. Because I can think of tons of games to be excited about, and Metal Gear is not one of them.
As for the game's plot, from what I can understand based on the trailer, it seems to be about Norman Reedus being on a mission to deliver his funky fetus somewhere to save America from this supernatural catastrophe that spawned this game's enemies.
So he's on a mission to destroy Hideo Kojima. So it's a game about destroying Hideo Kojima himself. I mean, I can get down with that because I think he's a hack, but I mean, you know.
More like it's off to destroy Troy Baker.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And so basically the reason Sony can't be at E3 is because they spent too much money on this game. My only question is, Sony, was it worth it? This game better be better than sex. Like, people better play this game and feel like they've been well serviced by a high-priced lady of the evening. Highly trained, highly priced lady of the evening. Because if not, if this game isn't that good or just plain mediocre, man, you guys got suckered. Suckered by Hideo Kojima.
And hearing some early rumors about another PlayStation State of Play event coming next month. Though I don't know if that's true. Because did we had a State of Play event last month on April?
I mean, they could, but I mean, does anyone care? I mean, is anyone really holding out hope for like, is there anything that Sony could show at the State of Play that really makes people care about it at this point?
Not really.
I mean, here's the thing. Here's why I don't think, like, so even if Sony does have a State of Play, it's not going to mean much anything. Because basically, like, any game that they show is probably also going to hit the PS5. So if you're a shallow gamer who only cares about next-gen hardware, next-gen games, all that shit, like, you're not going to get it for the PS4. You're going to get it for the PS5. And with the PS5 being backwards compatible, you really are probably going to get it for the PS5 or you know, whatever. So, I mean, I don't see the point, you know? I mean, sadly, what's the point? Like, who cares? What's the point? What, you
Does
know?
that also include the Medieval remake?
Eh, I mean, look, listen. I'm not poo-pooing Medieval. I'm just saying, what's the point?
What I mean is that you think they're gonna port the Medieval remake onto the PS5 as well,
They
alongside.
probably will. They probably will, just because like, here's the thing, okay? There's a lot of people who say they like Medieval, but when it gets right down to it, Medieval was a flop when it came out. Medieval 2 was also a flop. So the people who are saying love Medieval, the people who say they love Medieval doesn't pan out the sales of the game. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like one of those things where people say they love something, but then when it comes time to support it, they're all like, well, I can't, shit happens. So I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing Medieval being like this huge thing.
Mhm.
But hey, I could be wrong.
Let's see. We can move on to some Square Enix related news. They finally gave us. They finally informed us that we're going to be seeing their Avengers game this E3.
Yeah, and it's being made by Crystal Dynamics, the studio behind
Tomb Raider.
behind Tomb Raider, which worries me.
I mean, at least they give us more information about the game sooner than they did with Final Fantasy VII.
Man, I'm worried all around because, I mean, do you trust Square Enix as it is now to make anything really?
Well, I trust Crystal Dynamics more than Square.
I don't trust them either. Because, I mean, for me personally, because, I mean, I don't like the Tomb Raider reboot game. So, like, and I don't even think Crystal Dynamics made the reboot games. I think another studio made though. I don't know what Crystal Dynamics been doing aside from working on this game that they've been real quiet about for a while.
I mean, they were working on Shadows of the Tomb Raider, the last of the reboot trilogy.
Oh, really? That's what they're working on. That okay? Well, considering that I don't really like Tomb Raider, the Tomb Raider reboot all that much, then I'm not like they've made 3 games. I don't like any of them, even though I got Tomb Raider. I have like the first 2 games because when I upgraded my graphics card, I got it with the graphics card. I played it and I'm like, this isn't very good, and then uninstalled it. So, and the 3rd game I got as a gift from a friend. He gifted me the Steam code for it. I'm not like Square Enix hasn't made a game that I've gone gaga for except for like one, and that was Octopath Traveler. That was a perfectly fine game, a bit overpriced for $60 for what you got, but it is what it is. But I don't think it's I just don't. I'm not seeing it be very good, if you get what I'm saying. I mean, and right now we're in an age where, we should we're starting to get some good Marvel games, but I just don't think that this is going to be a good one. I would say, you know, this is probably going to be another Kingdom Hearts situation where Square Enix should be making one type of game, but they don't because they're incompetent. And you know, it is what it is. You know, those of you holding out hope for a awesome Avengers RPG, keep on holding out hope. But if you have to scratch that itch, we have Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 coming out for the Switch, so I guess that's as close as we'll get.
But that out of the way, we can finally discuss about Gearbox again.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to talk about Gearbox or, you know, Randy Pitchford or any of that stuff. But, you know, every time I turn around, Randy Pitchford is doing something shady. So
this time it involves animal cruelty.
Yeah, it does. Which I'm not down with. I'm not down with animal cruelty. I'm just letting you know I'm not down with it. I don't like it. No, sir, don't like it at all. Basically, what happened is that you know, Randy Pitchford essentially posted a video on Twitter showing people being not very nice to, you know, animals, which is not cool. I don't think. I don't think that's cool. I just read this. I didn't watch the video myself because I'm not down with that. So, like, I guess you saw the video. Can you be a bit more?
I didn't see the video myself either.
Oh well, basically, it's Randy Pitchford being a dick yet again because, you know, like Randy Pitchford is like the type of person that you want to like. Like, I really want to like Randy Pitchford, but he keeps on doing things that make me not like him. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like Randy,
and he also makes me not want to buy his games.
like Randy Pitchford is the type of guy that you see him, like when you first, he's the type of person that you first see and you're like, man, this guy's kind of cool. He'd probably be cool to hang out with. And then, like, for some reason, you finally hang out with him and you just watch him, you observe him, and you say to yourself, wow, this guy's an asshole. And that's Randy Pitchford. He's a man who is essentially an asshole. You know, and it's kind of sad because, like, it's getting to the point where his assholishness is making me not want to buy his game. You know, and that's not good. You know?
Yeah.
Because generally speaking, you know, even if it's a video game company that I don't really like a lot of their games, I don't want them to fail. But, like, I almost want Borderlands 2 to not do as well as it could, so that Randy Pitchford could learn a lesson in not being a dick. Here's some more some Randy Pitchford news. Randy Pitchford, David Eddings, the former VP of Gearbox, claims that Randy Pitchford physically assaulted him back in 2017. And considering that apparently he has evidence of this, because when Gearbox tried to sue David Eddings, apparently his lawyer presented some evidence that made them say, oh, shit, and back the fuck up. Which, generally speaking, big companies don't back the fuck up when they're, typically speaking, unless you have hard, damning evidence, and then they're like, oh, shit. So, and this information came from Alex 9324.
Oh yes, one of our contributors from Video Game Facts.
And a moderator, and he's also a moderator. So sorry, 9234. Yeah. I wasn't aware of that. I didn't. I mean, well, I knew about the story, but I didn't know like because Randy Pitchford doesn't look like a big guy, but he is kind of a big guy, and like David Eddings is kind of a smaller gentleman, and that's not cool. You being a big person picking on a little person. That's not cool. Not cool at all, Randy. That's kind of a dick move, Randy. But then again, like basically, Randy Pitchford has shown that he looks like a cool guy, but then you hear things about him and find out he's kind of a dick. You know, like how apparently he went to Camelot, which is this medieval experience type thing. They have one near me.
A medieval restaurant.
Well, it's not just a restaurant. They actually have like jousts and shit like that. It's an experience.
I've heard about it.
And apparently he went to the. I mean, we have one where I live, kind of like close to me, but it's called something different, but it's the same thing. And then like he went to one and apparently left a thumb drive with a lot of information plus part of his porn stash. And I'm like, yeah. How drunk were you to leave your porn stash? Because, I mean, you got to be pretty messed up to leave your porn stash, especially in a random place like Camelot. I mean, that's just weird. Like, what if some poor kid? What if some poor kid had like picked up? And apparently, Randy Pitchford's into some pretty kinky shit. Apparently he's into some pretty kinky shit, which I won't go further.
All I can say is that it may not be confirmed, but there are rumors of it. That's all I have to say.
Well, I mean, this is actually he came out and admitted it. Like he was watching something and a woman did something that apparently, depending on who you ask, is either very rare or urination. And he was like, man, there's no way she's actually doing that. And he's like, yeah, I saw it, but it's got to be a magic trick, right? I'm like, no, dude, you were watching porn, dude. You were watching porn. All right. You were pretty. Why would you admit to that? I mean, I can't even say why would you admit to that, because it would be odd. I'm not going to go into it, but basically it's just really, really, it's just like, come on, Randy. Randy, what? Like, I mean, to quote Jim Sterling, the people behind Fallout 76, it was an uphill climb to get people to want to buy that piece of shit, because the game itself was fundamentally flawed. But Randy Pitchford is driving people away from a game that people wanted. People for years have been saying, look, Borderlands, the pre-sequel was cool. Borderlands, Tales from the Borderlands was cool, but we want Borderlands 3. People have been wanting Borderlands 3 for like 5 goddamn years. And for the longest time, they just kept on giving us fucking filler games. And now we finally are getting Borderlands 3, and Randy Pitchford is making people not want to buy Borderlands 3 with his bad behavior. And that's what it is. It's bad behavior. It's basically just really bad behavior.
And would you believe that his behavior might have an influence on some of the character tropes, some of the characters in Borderlands 3?
Let me guess, Handsome Jack, the dude who was a total dick?
Yeah.
Who no one liked.
Except MacPat, who tries to defend him how he did nothing wrong.
Ooh, Handsome Jack?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think maybe MacPat made that video just to drive up views. Here's what I will say, though. Handsome Jack was a great villain because he was totally indefensible. And when you finally killed him or Lilith killed him, it felt totally good. It was like, this motherfucker deserves to die. Like, I mean, everyone keeps on trying to make tragic villains, but tragic villains are getting old because they're being used so often. Whatever happened to the old, I just want this motherfucker to die because he's evil.
Because they're underdeveloped. Because they're underdeveloped. Plus boring.
Not necessarily.
That was also a major complaint with some of the Marvel villains in the early years of the MCU.
I mean, well, not really. The problem with early Marvel villains for the MCU was that they were just simply a dark reflection of the main character. Like, that was the entire point, is that they were just simply, you know, it's the other character but evil. Like, you watch the original Iron Man, basically basically Ironmonger was Tony Stark but evil. And you know, you watch the second Incredible Hulk movie, Ed Norton, the Abomination is the Hulk but evil. You watch
Iron Man 2.
Iron Man 2. Yeah. Whiplash. He's Tony Stark but evil. And you know, even his business rival, Justin Hammer, he's Tony Stark but evil. I mean, it's like, okay, that's just it's an easy, like, here's what I would submit, okay? It's easy to do. The easiest way to create a villain is to make a dark reflection of that character. Comic books have been doing it for years, all right? Like, oh, well, they're you know, I mean, people do it all the time. I mean, look, think about how the Joker is always like, me and Batman have a relationship, you know, we're you know, I'm chaotic, he's order, all that shit. But I mean, sometimes it's just much, like, you miss having the old, I just want to kill everybody because I want to. Like, it's like, I don't need to hear your motivations. You're the bad guy. Okay, get to it. You know, like, sometimes you just want a villain who's just evil. Like you know, like when Darth Vader picks up the Emperor Palpatine and throws his ass into that shaft. I don't need to hear how Palpatine was abused as a child by his master and how he had a girlfriend and a wife and kid. I don't need to hear any of that. He's evil. Kill him. I don't need any of that shit. Sometimes a villain just has to be evil and he needs to go, right?
Right. We call that the flat villain. We call it a flat villain.
No. Flat villain is someone who is a villain that's evil just for the sake of they need a villain to pad out the time. Like, I'll give it a good example of that. Go watch
Frieza from Dragon Ball is supposed to be an example of a flat villain.
Who?
Frieza.
Frieza?
That's where
Not really, no. No, Frieza's not really a flat villain. The best example of a flat villain I could give, just like straight up like a villain from out of left field because they just need a villain. I would say Blofeld. Blofeld from James Bond, because you know nothing about Blofeld. They just needed someone who was the head of Spectre, who was ominous and just had all these nefarious plans, and who was a badass, but you didn't really know anything about him. That's a flat villain. Like the classical old villain is just a bad guy who's bad just for the sake of being bad. But that doesn't necessarily mean he's flat. It just means he's there to move the story along and be bad, right? But a flat villain is the hero is just taking on henchmen and all these other minor plots, but then you find out the person behind the whole thing the entire time is this other guy. That's the flat villain. Having a one-dimensional villain doesn't necessarily mean they're flat. It just means that, you know, they don't have a tragic story. Because at this point, I'm getting tired of if you should feel sorry for this villain. No, I shouldn't, because me feeling sorry for the villain doesn't outweigh the fucked up shit the villain has done. Like currently, Star Wars under the new regime keeps on trying to make they're making these new legends stories about Darth Vader, right? and all the really fucked up, horrible shit Darth Vader did while he was Darth Vader, while Anakin Skywalker did while he was Darth Vader working under the Emperor. And it's like, it's really hard for me to root for your redemption, because the more fucked up shit you do, the more I'm like, maybe you shouldn't have been redeemed. Like, maybe you should have just, you know, died like the Emperor did. And suffered horrifically. Maybe Obi-Wan Kenobi should have just killed you right there on the side of Mustafar near that fire river and put you out your misery. You know, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I am not necessarily I'm not looking forward to I'm not looking forward to this year's E3 as much as normal, not because of Sony not being there, but because we're seeing, which segues into the next topic, we're seeing we're seeing third parties do what they've been doing to Nintendo consoles for years. You know, like the Switch is selling very well. I think it's at what, 35 million units sold worldwide now. It's probably going to outsell the Xbox One by the end of this year. It's probably going to outsell the PS4 by next year if sales figure, as long as they continue to drop high quality games for the system. And yet third parties are still putting out bullshit on the system.
I mean, they're still porting out their older games onto the Switch rather than porting in their more recent titles.
Or if they put an old game out on the system, like, okay, like Capcom, perfect example. Now, you can get the Resident Evil collection on the PS4, the Xbox One, the PC. Resident Evil collection, it has like 4 or 5 games in it, okay? You're getting those same games put on the Switch at $30 a pop, or is it $20 a pop? I think, is it 30 or 40?
Well, I recently saw a physical copy of Resident Evil 0 and 1 together as a collection, but not Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. But basically, they're it's like, what the fuck, man? I mean, I can't. It's like,
and they cost $60.
Yeah. That's my problem. That's my problem. Like, why are you charging? Yeah, I get that it's on a cartridge, but why are you charging people, you know, $30 a pop, $60 for a collection, when you can get that same collection on, I mean, roughly we can say current gen consoles for far less. Like, you can get those same collections for $20, $30. Brand new, 30 at the highest. Maybe 35 if he goes in place that.
From what I can understand from their logic, each port cost is worth $30, and so combining it together will justify the $60 for a physical copy.
Yeah, that sounds like bullshit to me. I think that's the official thing that they're trying to say. I think what's really going on is their reasoning is this: we haven't been putting these games on Nintendo consoles. So if you're only a Nintendo gamer, these games are new to you. So we can fucking charge you whatever we want, and if you want to play these games, you're gonna take it. Which, I mean, if you're a scummy business person, perfectly fine. The problem is that a lot of Nintendo gamers have multiple consoles, and they have other avenues to play games. Just because you like playing Nintendo games doesn't mean you can't game on other shit. Like, I love Nintendo. Nintendo, for the longest time, every console gen is my primary console. But then if I want to play shit that's not going to come to a Nintendo console, or I don't want to be raped, or I don't want my wallet raped, because they tend to do a upcharge on Nintendo stuff, unless there's features specific to the Nintendo version that you just really can't get anyplace else. I'll get it on PC or PS3 last gen or PS2 or whatever. But now it's like I don't see the point, especially when I already have the Resident Evil collection from the PS3 era. Like, just slightly more HD graphics. I mean, that's what's the point? I mean, it seems like they're taking advantage of the consumer base. Like, they're counting on the consumer base being ignorant of game prices or where they can get these other of only having a Switch. And even today, like, how many people only have a Switch?
Beats me. They probably already own a last gen console or PC.
Yeah, I mean, that's my thing. Like, a lot of people who have Switches also have other consoles. So why are they fucking people over who like for the Switch version when they have other options to play a game? Because it's not like they're adding, like, Resident Evil 4 doesn't have gyroscopic aiming on the Switch. So even like the one thing that would kind of make it kind of unique and add some cool shit to it, it doesn't even have. So, like, you have no real impetus to want to get it on the Switch, except for, well, you can play on the go. I mean, that's it. Like, the only thing that you have is that you can play on the go. But, I mean, the thing is like, what you give up in playing certain games on the go, like, it's not really, like, to me, it's not worth it. Because even if I play something as, like, not really game demanding as, like, a $14, $20 eShop game on my Switch, if I'm playing on the go for like 2 or 3 hours, it drains the fuck out of my battery. Even with the new battery I got, it drains the fuck out of the battery. So I'm like, I don't see the point of playing this like mobily for a long period of time, on the go. So, like, for me personally, I'm like, like playing Resident Evil on the go isn't really a selling point to me, and they aren't adding anything interesting or new to the console. So, I mean, it is what it is, Your thoughts on it?
Really wish Capcom would stop trying to rip us switchovers off.
Yeah.
Start treating us as equally as the other first party companies such as Sony and Microsoft.
Yeah. I mean, they treat us like, well, you can't go anywhere else. But that's the thing. I can go other places. I don't have to go to you. There's other places where I can play video games.
Of course, yeah, and I'm also expecting them to port Resident Evil 5 and 6 onto the Switch as well.
Resident Evil.
Even though fans didn't even enjoy those two titles, because that was at that point where the franchise took a dip in quality before Resident Evil 7 brought it back up.
And I would argue that Resident Evil 7 isn't even that good. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not like, oh my god, this game is the best Resident Evil ever. Because Resident Evil 7 doesn't even feel like a Resident Evil game. Not really.
Resident Evil 4.
That, like, really, that's the last one that I played that felt like a Resident Evil game. Like, Resident Evil 4 felt like the logical evolution of Resident Evil. And then
And then Resident Evil 7, they try to turn it into another jump scare video game.
Yeah, a jump, and not even that, but it doesn't even feel like a Resident Evil game. Like, because the big thing about Resident Evil is that it's always like you're always dealing with some shit that's a fallout from the events of Raccoon City. Like, that's the entire, it's always the Umbrella Corporation, Raccoon City. Resident Evil 7 is only like by the thinnest, barest thread connected to Umbrella Corporation and the events of Raccoon City. It's like, you know, it's like barely there. It's weird. It's like, what are you doing here? I don't know. So it is what it is, man. I don't know. I mean, is there any way? Is there any is there any way? I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I've been fighting against this for like 3 console gens now, through the 7th gen, through the 8th gen, through the 6th gen. Third parties are gonna fuck us over if you're a Nintendo gamer, no matter what. So you just got to pick and choose what you get, you know, or have multiple consoles, and then just certain games you just won't get because the console manufacturer is just being a dick. So it is what it is. Let's look at some basic news we have here.
All right, gonna take a look.
Yeah, I'm going to Go Nintendo for this. Sega Ages is doing the Wonder Boy collection for the Switch. If you don't know what Wonder Boy is, Wonder Boy for Sega Genesis is their reskin of
Puyo Puyo?
No, not Puyo Puyo. It's the reskin of well, actually, it's the original version of what on the NES became known as for Hudson Soft's Adventure Island. The original Adventure Island, not what Adventure Island eventually became with Master Higgins and all that shit. Where you run to the right, jumping on shit, collecting fruit in order to stay alive, finding fairies and weird shit like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So.
Let's see.
Oh Lord, there was a Pokemon-themed wedding in Japan.
Hey, I was about to mention that.
Yeah, there was a official Pokemon-themed wedding, which, I mean, you know, this woman is obviously these two people must really like Pokemon, because I'm going to tell you right now, my girlfriend's a gamer, and she, you know, she kind of had a Game Boy and all those Game Boy, the requisite titles of Game Boys. But if I said, let's get married and have a Pokemon-themed wedding, she'd probably slap the shit out of me. So this dude is, he's lucky he found someone that was willing to entertain, or maybe it was her idea. She's lucky she found someone that was willing to entertain the idea of having people in costumes at their wedding dressed like Pikachu. I couldn't do it, but, you know, God bless him.
Let's
see what else we got here.
Let's see. Nintendo confirmed that there won't be you won't be able to play online with friends in Super Mario Maker 2. Only play with random people.
Yeah,
So I expect that to be fixed later on, like in a update.
Yeah. I mean, it's not so much that they're doing it; it's the excuse that they made on why it's not there. They're like, "Well, it'll mess up competitive rankings." I'm like, "Well, I have leaderboards and leaderboards." I'm like, "Well, I have an idea. If you're running through a level with your friends, disable the ranking so that if you're with friends, or like if one friend's there and you're playing with 3 randos, with 2 other randos, it still doesn't count because your friend's there and they might have an undue advantage. So the ranking doesn't count for that friend. Like if your friend and you're on someone else's map, it doesn't count.
That's why I mentioned they might add it later on in the update patch once they do something like that.
Because I mean, the argument that somehow that's gonna the argument doesn't jive. Personally, here's what I think happened. I think that they were making the game, they were optimizing the code to run on the Switch, and they just plain forgot. And rather than admit, oh shit, we had an oversight. Because I mean, when you're coding, there's a lot of lines of code you got to deal with. There's a lot of shit there's a lot of balls you got to juggle, a lot of plates that they're spinning on sticks, and you can't think of everything. But rather than admit that, they come up with a lame ass excuse. Well, it's for competitive reasons. Because the thing is like with games that have online multiplayer, there's some people that they only play with their friends. They don't play with random people. So, I mean, me personally, I don't really play online that often at all, really, anymore. I used to, but...
Well, on the bright side, they have local multiplayer.
Yeah, which is cool, but, I mean, I'm not really happy about just random people coming to my house. I don't invite people to my house very often, which is kind of weird, but, you know, it is what it is. I mean, maybe it'll be good. I don't know.
Now for some other gaming news. This one's going to be this one's actually Smash Bros. Related because it comes from translations from Sakurai's book that we learned some. It talks about some rather recent information about his development with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Apparently, the Fighter's Pass was requested by Nintendo without. Apparently, DLC was considered without him and his development team's consent.
Makes sense. They're trying to make money. They're nickel and diming the shit out of people. Why not? Here's some more news for you. Xseat Games is bringing a medley bouquet of game announcements and updates for spring 2019, which is weird because it feels like summer as hot as it is. They're bringing Senran Kagura Peach Ball, Trails of Cold Steel, Senran Kagura Reflections, Wizardry, Labyrinth of Lost Souls, Gal Metal, and Iden Detective Mysteria. So
they're trying to play on the word hot by giving us hot underage girls.
I'm not too enthusiastic about games with underage girls in sexually enticing outfits, but I mean, if that's what you like, it's a little weird, but it's coming to the system. A lot of them, except for Trails of Cold Steel. That's actually a pretty good game.
Oh yes, I should mention all the games announced for the Contra Anniversary Collection.
Yeah, it's
pretty underwhelming compared to Castlevania because most of the games listed are basically different regional versions of the exact same game.
I disagree with you. I think the only collection that they've come out with that was actually kind of interesting was the arcade collection that Konami came out with. The Castlevania collection was kind of underwhelming. And the Contra collection is kind of underwhelming. I mean, where are the DS games? Where's Contra 4? Which is actually, I don't know why they call it Contra 4 because it's actually a prequel. It's like it actually takes place before Super Contra or Contra 3, depending on what region you're in. Like it's just Konami, what the fuck's going on, man? What?
And they also have the nerve to have both the original Famicom version and the NES version of Contra 1 on the collection.
Well, that makes sense because the Famicom version that's on there is the Famicom disc version, or no, it's the Famicom version, which the Famicom version has a special chip where like
the way levels are animated is slightly different. There's less flicker, and there's like cut scenes, and I think there's like a few extra areas in some of the levels, but don't hold me to that. So it's slightly better. It's slightly better. So there's enough differences that it's a different game, is what I'm saying. So
Yeah, but it's the exact same levels.
Not really. Like with the slightly different chipset, the custom chipset that Konami put in, the levels might seem the same at first, but how certain things go down and certain enemy placements and like how certain enemies behave and certain background things behave, it's different enough that it's not the same game. It's not like the difference between Castlevania 4 and Super Castlevania 4, where like Castlevania 4 in Japan, Akamoju Dracula 4 in Japan is basically the same game, just with a reskin, like more blood and the statue, like the crosses are around there, and the statues that are covered with cloaks at a certain point in the game are actually nude busts in the Japanese version. Like it's not that much. It's not a slight difference like that. It's like there's major differences between the Famicom version of Contra and Contra in Japan and Contra in the US. Yeah, it's enough of a difference that it actually, like, they're different games, is what I'm saying. Which I'm okay with. Like, it doesn't bother me. What bothers me is that
Okay, so what about the Provo sector, aka the European version of Contra?
Yeah, like the European version of Contra is literally just
robots.
Yeah, it's literally it's Contra 3 just with robots. I mean it.
And that's because of European laws on video games back in the day.
Yeah, they weren't allowed to have a certain amount of violence, so they said, well, we can have robots. Kind of like how, because of violence on television, for the animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we weren't allowed to have, like, the foot soldiers weren't allowed to be actual, the Foot Clan wasn't allowed to be human, so they turned them into robots, which in my opinion made them slightly more disposable and fun to blow up. So kudos for that, for that decision. But like, could you imagine playing Turtles in Time with real people getting thrown off of ledges and kicked into electrified fences and shit? That'd be horrific. But
they couldn't call them ninjas either, so they had to call them Hero Turtles.
Well, in Europe, they called them Hero Turtles for like one season, and then they were like, "Man, fuck this," and then it went back to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is baffling, but. I mean, you know, it was the 80s. What can I say? Some people were stupid. But anyway, yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, love it. One of my personal favorite Konami things. Now, see, if they were going to do the arcade collection, why isn't Turtles in Time or the original Turtles on there? I mean, I know they have to reacquire those licenses, but I mean, they could do something. Okay, here we go. The NPD. Okay, these are the top-selling games for the Nintendo 3DS. The top 10. Mario Kart 7, Super Smash Brothers, Super Mario 3D Land, New Super Mario Brothers 2, Pokemon X, Pokemon Y, Pokemon Sun, Pokemon Omega Ruby, Pokemon Moon, Pokemon Alpha Sapphire. Digital sales are not included with this, but number 5 and 6 above all the other Pokemon games is X and Y. So there you go. The argument has been settled. For the Nintendo Switch, in America is Mario Kart 8, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, Super Mario Party, Splatoon 2, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. I expect those two at 7 and 8 to go down once the new Pokemon game comes out this fall. Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle and New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, which proves the fact that it's on this list that people really want a 2D Mario game, a traditional 2D Mario game. It's not, you know, it's not a dead genre. Let's see what else here.
The thing about this is that going back to what Sakurai said in his book when he mentioned sales numbers. Let me look it up. He said that he thinks that games should not be created based on research data alone, and saying that games only born to imitate other games are misfortune, and those data should be used for marketing or management and not planned for new games because old data are old.
I guess. Look, man, I'm not saying that you should only use committee and business decisions solely when making a game, because a part of a game needs creativity in order for it to be good. But if there's an audience for something, like, okay, if you're a Nintendo gamer, we are starved for the Nintendo platform as a whole since the Wii. Since the N64 has been starved for quality JRPGs, right? It's an underserved audience. So you'd have to be a fucking moron if you're a game developer or a studio or a publisher to not want to put something, because it's a starved market, right? It's a starved market. And yet they won't do it. You know,
but the thing is, if they try to put in more JRPGs to please that crowd, they'll only anger the more casual audiences about how there's too much focus on JRPGs rather than other genres like shooters or puzzle games.
I think that's a false dichotomy.
I mean, I've seen that argument before in the last few Nintendo Directs.
No, I really do think that's a false dichotomy, because the thing is like we know by and large that JRPGs are a very expensive genre to make, because like it takes time. First, you got to create the scenario, then you got to do all that programming. If you're doing a traditional JRPG with an overworld, that's a lot of programming, a lot of events, a lot of triggers that you got to do. If there's levels, if there's classes, you got to do those classes. If there's a involved game battle system, there's programming for that. It's just a lot of variables. I understand that, but if you sell a certain amount, if you keep your budget under control and you sell a certain amount, that makes up the amount of money and time and energy you put into making that game is made up for. Here's some Japanese software sales for last week. Basically, the top 10 games, 9 of them are Nintendo. Well, 8 of them are Nintendo Switch games. 2 of them are PS4 games. One is Days Gone, which that game.
I'm pretty sure everyone has already forgotten about that game.
That game flopped in Japan. It sold less than 200,000 units. And the other one is Assassin's Creed 3 Remaster, which is probably gonna flop even harder in Japan, because I don't think anyone gives a shit about Assassin's Creed in Japan. I mean, I'm not a scientist, but I just think no one gives a shit about that game. I'm not a data analyst. I'm not a data analyst, but I don't think anyone cares. So we've got 20 minutes till the end of the podcast. Anything you want to add before we wrap things up?
Let's see. Looking for any other video game news that we haven't covered yet. Nope. Yeah. Going back to Super Mario Maker 2, it has been revealed that the stylus that's going to be come alongside with the game will not be coming to North America. It's going to be coming in Japan only.
Okay. All right. Okay, I got it.
Oh yeah, and Capcom's going to be releasing a visual novel called Toa Wear no Palm to the Switch.
Really?
It's basically a dating sim for girls, where you have to, or it's a love triangle between your player character and two boys.
All right. I mean, I'm not gonna get it anyway because I'm a man and I don't want to play any of those weird moe ass games that are just weird.
Well, it's not moe because it uses realistic character proportions.
Well, I don't mean moe in that sense. I mean moe is in those games that they make for girls where they basically it's like a dating sim where just to go with which guy. It's the guy who's kind of a tsundere where he's cold but he's actually really passionate on the inside, or is it the guy who's really outgoing and gregarious, but his outgoing gregarious attitude masks the deep inner pain, something tragic happened in his childhood, like his parents died or some shit like that. You know, like it's I don't really care to play any of those games. Because just don't care. Suda51 will be at 2019. Says he might have an announcement to share. If we're lucky, we might get a No More Heroes 3.
Let's see. Have we talked about Dragon Quest news last podcast?
What?
Have we talked about Dragon Quest related news last podcast?
I think we did. We talked about how
Weekly Shonen Jump is going to be sharing some surprising news about Dragon Quest this June.
No, we didn't talk about that. I think that happened after the podcast, but we talked about like how they're coming out with some new stuff that, you know, may or may not be good. I don't know.
Yeah, it says that they're going to be it says that Weekly Shonen Jump will be showing some surprising news about Dragon Quest next month on June 10th.
I mean, okay. Let's have a thought experiment. What could they announce that would be interesting to you?
Let's see. The announcement of a Dragon Quest character announces DLC for Smash. Or perhaps, or a North American release of Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, unless they're going to talk about how they're making a sequel to Dragon Quest IX. And when I say a sequel, I mean, because that world was so rich, they could totally do like a sequelized type game to it. Dragon Quest IX 2 or some shit. Or, you know, a remake, like you said, a remake of
a remake of an older Dragon Quest title.
Yeah, like a remake of Dragon Quest 3, which would be cool. I'd be cool with a remake of Dragon Quest 3 because Dragon Quest 3 technically chronologically is the first game in the series. It had, even though it was the third game made for the Famicom/NES, and it had the biggest it had the biggest jump in the amount of gameplay systems. Like you could create your own party, and it had classes and advanced classes, and you could basically customize those classes, and it was just insane the amounts of abilities and special skills you could use. So I could see them upgrading that and bringing that forward. I'd be cool with that. I don't know where you could go from there. Like, there's nothing, although knowing the truth, they're probably going to do, well, we're doing Dragon Quest Heroes 3. Which, you know, if it's as mediocre as the last 2 Dragon Quest Heroes games, then I'm probably going to be like, no, I'm good. So, I have a question. Just in Super Mario Maker, do amiibos still work the same way, or have they made it so that like you use an amiibo and the amiibo character has special abilities that are indicative of that amiibo?
Let's see. From what I've been reading and hearing, they pretty much did away with the amiibo costumes.
Oh, well, so sad. Oh well.
Because people, it was coming from people who played the demo of the game.
Okay. I mean, I'm not really excited about the game anyway, so I don't really, not really. Since I don't really, since I haven't really cared that much about the first game, and I damn sure don't care about this one. So, you know, it is what it is. Let's see what else we got going on here. Another Atelier game is coming out for the Switch. It'll probably hit here eventually. It's Atelier Rise of the Queen of Eternal Darkness and the Secret Hideout. Another one of those games where you own a shop and do some shit. I can't take it. I can't take it. It's so bad. I can't take it. Those Atelier games used to be good, and they've just been going downhill ever since. Let's see what else. Cadence of Hyrule may launch on May 30th. Maybe. But probably not. I don't know. Anything else? Anything else?
Nothing.
All right. So, anything anyone wants to anything you want to pimp out before we wrap things up?
I've got nothing either. I'm still trying to develop which article. Still trying to debate which article to post first.
Okay, let's get to it. So basically, this is Mr. Red Fox speaking for BS Busters, where we talk about all things video games and we debunk bullshit titles and all that type of cool shit. So with that being said, you can reach me on via Gmail on mrredfoxbsbuster@gmail.com. That's all lowercase. Or at Twitter at Matthew Wesley at mrredfox91. That's all one word on Twitter. You can also reach the channel by going on YouTube and typing in BS Busters, and you'll link to one of my pictures or whatever. Remember, rate, comment, share, subscribe, and ring that bell in order to get icons, in order to get announcements when we go online and do all that fun stuff. Also, when I drop new videos, which isn't as frequent as I used to back in the day, but every Wednesday and Saturday, 7:30 p.m. to normally 9 p.m., there is a BS Buster podcast. So we always will have something going on. And with that being said, that's the end of the podcast. Peace.
And hype responsibly.
And fuck Sony.